Welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever really thought about the connection between our world and, well, the spirit world, or what the true nature of love really is? Today, we're jumping into a really powerful 1977 address by the Reverend Sun Myung Moon that tackles these huge questions head-on. Let's get into it. Right out of the gate, this speech taps into something I think we've all felt at some point, that deep curiosity, maybe even, a little anxiety about what happens next. I mean, it's one of the biggest human questions, right? And it really sets the stage for the entire spiritual map this address is about to lay out for us. So, where do we begin? Well, the address kicks off with a pretty stark diagnosis of the modern world. The basic argument is that in a really fundamental way, we're spiritually lost. Let's unpack what that actually means. Okay, so this is a pretty bold claim to start with. The speech suggests that for a lot of people, religion has become less of a true north, a guiding compass, and more like a comfort blanket. The argument is that it's just not providing the deep, life-changing answers people are hungry for, and that's left a lot of us feeling adrift. And this is where it gets really specific. It's not just some vague feeling of being disconnected. The text breaks it down into three key areas where we've missed the mark. First, we're not even sure the spirit world is real. Second, we don't get how we, God, and that spirit world are all supposed to fit together. And third, we don't realize that God's entire motivation is love. Without those pieces, we're basically trying to build a house on sand. I mean, think about it. How do we try to bring people together in our world? Usually through things like force, or money and knowledge, or different ideologies. But the speech says nope. All of these are fundamentally flawed, they're temporary, and it contrasts all of those human attempts with what it calls God's one, single method. The only thing it claims that can truly and permanently unite everyone. Okay, so we've got the problem, a world that's spiritually adrift. So what's the life raft? And this brings us right to the absolute heart of the address, to this incredibly powerful concept it calls true love. So when the speech talks about true love, it's not just talking about an emotion or a feeling, it's presenting it as a fundamental force of the universe, almost like spiritual gravity. It's this one power that's strong enough to pull everything, and I mean everything, people, nature, the spirit world, all of it, into this perfect harmony. So how in the world do you wrap your head around a love that big? Well, the speech gives us a really powerful, relatable example, the love a parent has for their child. That kind of love doesn't just change on a whim. It's unconditional, it's timeless. And this, the text argues, is our best window into understanding the unchanging, eternal nature of God's love for all of us. And this, right here, is the key pivot in the whole address. I mean, it's one thing to talk about this amazing, universal force of love, right? But it's something else entirely to actually tap into it, to feel it yourself. So the speech shifts gears now, from the what to the how. So how do we plug into this universal love? Well, according to the speech, the answer isn't out there somewhere. It's actually deep inside us. It's a process of awakening something called the divine mind. Let's dive into what that is. So the speech talks about this fascinating idea that we each have two minds. On one hand, you've got the fallen mind. That's kind of our everyday reactive self, the part that gets swayed by circumstances and feels disconnected from anything bigger. But underneath that, we all have a divine mind. That's our true core, our essential self. Think of it like an unshakable anchor inside you, your permanent, built-in connection to God. And this is a really important point. The role of religion, in this view, isn't just to give you rules or make you feel good. Its real job, its ultimate function, is to be a catalyst, to help awaken and grow that divine mind within each of us, making that connection to God a living, breathing reality. And this just illustrates that journey perfectly. You start by looking inward, searching for that divine core. But once you make that connection, something amazing happens. The whole perspective flips. You stop searching for God because you realize God is now out in front of you, leading you forward into the world. Okay, so you've made that internal connection. That's great. But what now? Does it all just stay inside as a nice feeling? No way. This spiritual awakening is meant to be the fuel for a very real, tangible mission out in the world. And this is where the address introduces the idea of a Messiah, or a central figure.
The key here is that this person's role isn't just to be a teacher with some new ideas. Their purpose is to be a living, walking, breathing demonstration of God's parental love, like a living blueprint that the rest of us can learn from.
Now, what's so wild here is the description of this mission. It's not about coming in and making everyone comfortable or propping up the status quo. It's a spiritual revolution that starts in the hardest places imaginable, at the bottom of human misery. The idea is to go right into hell and use it as a springboard. And because that's so radical, the speech predicts this kind of movement will absolutely face intense worldwide opposition.
So this brings it all right down to the individual level. If you're buying into this framework, what does it actually mean for how you live your life day to day? The final section of the speech lays out a very fundamental choice. And really, the choice is presented as being crystal clear. You can live a life focused purely on me, and that's a downward path that ultimately leads to what the speech calls the dungeon of hell. Or you can live a life focused outward, on God and on other people. And that's the upward path that leads to the highest spiritual reality.
But this whole idea of living for others isn't just presented as a nice piece of moral advice. The speech frames it as the core operating principle of the entire universe. Think about it. Minerals exist to nourish plants, plants exist to feed animals. Everything finds its true purpose by giving itself to something else. This principle is laid out as the very engine that drives all of creation.
So it all comes down to this, a clear call to action. To really connect with God's love and be a part of building this ideal world, a person has to live a life of incredible dedication and sacrifice. It's about purifying your heart and your mind to focus completely on that higher purpose. We're going to end on this final, really powerful idea from the speech. It's this vision of ultimate unity, where the line between God and humanity just dissolves. It's about a total exchange, a swap. Man lives completely for God, and God lives completely for man, creating this perfect give-and-take relationship. It's a pretty incredible thought that really sums up the entire journey of this address.